I spent the morning hours switching primarily between Raid Heroes Total War and Far Orion. With some sessions of Dieberry on Congregate. All the games I just mentioned are playable for free on Congregate. If I recall, somewhere between 11 in the morning and 12, I had a plain cup of coffee that Mom made. And during my brief session with Dieberry, I did some runs with the Barbarian character with the spear weapon selected. Since she specialized towards the spear weapon, though those runs didn't last too long typically, because I tended to keep getting hit and lose all of my health. Around 2:30 p.m., I had a chicken-flavored phenomenal faux bowl adding in some frozen cooked shrimp, after microwaving the pho for 6 minutes. To make it hot enough so that just putting the shrimp in would be enough to thaw out the shrimp. And I had a couple mild cheddar cheese sticks with that faux bowl. Then I walked to Wegmans to return some container deposits, for which I got back $1.45. While walking to Wegmans, I found what I thought was initially an empty wrapper of mini Oreos. But it turned out it was an unopened pouch of mini Oreos. And that I found on the sidewalk. I think, if I recall, by our local Tim Hortons. I initially considered eating them myself, but then I decided to turn it over to the staff at the customer service area, which is where I always redeem the container deposits. I gave that pouch of mini Oreos to them since I don't really need a pouch of mini Oreos. Then on the way back from Wegmans, I found a taped together deck of Uno cards. If I recall, it was by a lot of our local Walgreens, so I went in there and turned the deck over to them. Technically one of the cashiers, since at that time I assumed someone had dropped that deck of Uno cards. We got back from Wegmans somewhere between 3:15 p.m. to somewhere close to 4 p.m. Shortly after I got back from Wegmans, or sometime after I got back from Wegmans, somewhere between half an hour to an hour after I got back from Wegmans, I helped hold some of the gutter in place. Not the part that's by the perimeter of the roof, more like part of what goes down from the gutter to the ground. I held that in place. I think it's technically called the spout. If I recall, I held that in place while Mom hammered a nail into one of the spout's metal bracings after initially trying to get an old screw out. That wasn't sticking out by its bolt end. Rather, it was sticking out the other way. And I recall she used some kind of pliers to try and get the screw out, to try and unscrew it, or something like that, but that effort wasn't successful. Since, to a large extent, the spout was in the way. So that's why she came up with the idea of hammering a nail through the metal bracing to connect it to the wall. We were on the left side of our house. Then used another nail hammered it into the front, the middle of the front of the spout and the metal bracing. Well, the spout, the metal bracing was behind the spout. Hammered that second nail in order to try to tightly wrap the metal bracing around towards the bottom of the spout, so the spout would stay connected to the gutter. I spent somewhere between 15 minutes to half an hour holding that spout in place. Doing so wasn't too difficult. I just had to keep switching hands. Oh, well, technically switching arms, but I did use my hand to hold it in place. I just think it was my arm that did most of the work of keeping it in place. While I was walking to Wegmans, there was some concern that the wind would catch the white plastic garbage bag. Where I had all the containers in there. The majority of them plastic bottles with some aluminum cans. On the way to Wegmans, after I found the pouch of mini Oreos, I found an empty Budweiser aluminum can, and I was able to return the deposit for an extra 5 cents. And that was part of the $1.45. I had some concern the wind would catch the bag and potentially make a container blow out of the bag, and I would have to go after that container. If it didn't blow away too fast, but thankfully none of the containers were blown out. I held the garbage bag with this hand, or my left hand. It only got windy at one point while I walked to Wegmans. And on the way back, it didn't really matter, since by that point, I had the bag in my right pocket and the money in my left. And I had zippable pockets. And they were zipped up. So the wind couldn't blow them out of my pockets or anything like that. Immediately after helping to hold the spout in place, I helped look for some kind of online instruction manual for a camera that we got from Grandma's place some days back. And it turned out that camera was released back in 2001. Based off its appearance, I was assuming sometime in the 1990s. And it's a bit surprising that it was possible to find an instruction manual online for something that old. The link had some Japanese text, and this was on This was off of Mom's phone. She initially dismissed that link, thinking maybe the instruction manual would be in Japanese. But I decided to try the link anyway, and it had the exact instruction model, the exact instruction manual, after I typed in the model of that camera. And that was a real camera, not the camera that's included on your smartphone. Though these days I would be apt to assume that that smartphone cameras are as powerful as the real cameras, or at least close enough that you would only get a real camera for something specialized. I would assume you can take some pretty good photos or slash video too with a smartphone. The point of looking for that instruction manual was so Mom could figure out where the port is on that camera to be able to hook it up to either her PC or to our old VCR. And once that was figured out, I believe she connected it to the VCR in her room. Brought the VCR to her room and connected it there, the camera to the VCR. Camera kind of takes these, I would call them cassette tapes, but I'm not entirely sure if they're cassette tapes. This must be the cat goddess. Ultimately, it was around 8 p.m. I believe I was done with the stuff involving that camera somewhere between 6:30 and 7 p.m. And it was 8 p.m. when I had some steak and shrimp Mom cooked with some green beans and a glass of whole milk. What I just had with that chicken Cobb salad. The shrimp and steak had a sort of, it was to some extent marinated in lemon juice from fresh lemons and had some garlic put on top, which I believe, thanks to the lemon juice, the garlic was just strong enough to give it some flavor, but not too strong so as to cause a burning sensation from eating the garlic.